Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We're back with another episode. Before I introduce our topic, here's a quote just for this episode. The successful warrior is the average man with laser focus. Bruce Lee. Today we're back. Part two. Culture Matters, core value, focus. 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 If you haven't listened to part one of Focus, I'm ashamed. You've been unfocused. If you haven't listened to core value on urgency, preparation, curiosity, you're not prepared for this episode of the Culture Matters podcast, part two on focus. Part of the preparation was to listen to the other core values of Culture Matters as it relates to being a professional advisor, a trusted advisor, a professional consultant. Be the steward, the third party observer and helper in the helping profession to the culture. Part of the preparation for this episode, part two of Focus, was to go listen to those four podcasts: preparation, urgency, curiosity, and part one of Focus, in that order. If you haven't listened to those episodes and taken notes, listen to them at least once. I'm sorry, but you will not be focused for the remaining episode. I'm just kidding. But really, go over there, listen to those podcast episodes, because this is a series on the Culture Matters core values as it relates to being an advisor. What is what does it take to consult? What does it take to be a high performing value add to company cultures? So what does this mean that the successful warrior is the average man with laser focus? There's another quote by Bruce Lee, something to the effect of, it's not I'd rather do one kick 1,000 times than 1,000 different kicks. It's the one kick 1,000 times, the 1,000 different kicks. Repetition leads to experience, and experience over time is wisdom. Repetition and focus have a relationship. Repetition is time in the ring. Repetition is putting is the struggle. Repetition is the flick of the guitar. It's the fingers on the piano keys. It's the jumping over the jump rope. It's taking something from conscious incompetency to unconscious competency. Conscious incompetency, or unconscious, rather, unconscious incompetency to conscious incompetency to conscious competency to unconscious competency, right? Unconsciously incompetent. You don't even know that you're not great. You may even think you're better than you are, suffering from that Dunning-Kruger effect, the unconsciously incompetent, and the consciously, oh, I know I'm not that good. And then the consciously competent, yeah, I'm all right. And then the unconsciously competent, that's from repetition. And well, focus is a part of the reps, is a part of focus is a component of each rep, because focus has to do with time and space. It has to do with only being I'm only able to be here right now in this moment with you, my attention. You have my undivided attention. And my intention is to do the best possible job. So I've prepared. I've been thinking about what focus means to me as an advisor, as the host of the Culture Matters podcast, when my attention is on the guest. And the belief is that I've got to listen deeply to what is not being said so I can ask better questions. Here's a quote. You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. Wow. The unimportance. So it's not just about what you choose to do, it's about what you choose not to do. The question is, out of a out of 100, now I'm thinking of another quote on Heraclitus. You listen to the show. Out of 100 percentage points, do you know what percentage point to focus on? How how's your discernment? What if discernment and focus had a relationship? What if discernment and reps had a relationship? What if discernment and intuition had a relationship? What if intuition has a relationship with knowledge in respect to how much time has been put in? I don't think that we can get past putting in the hours. Now, there could be, you could make an argument of based on someone's talent, innate talent, the environment that they've been around, and other factors. It could take less time invested to be good, to even be great if they're in an environment with those that are really just lacking at that level. But to be the best in the world, it's going to take the environment, it's going to take the talent, it's going to take the hours, it's going to take the reps. Life is one never-ending competition. It's one never-ending, it's a never-ending competition in a vast foray of contexts. And the question we each have to ask ourselves is, which context are we competing in and why? And that has to have a relationship with who we are, who we can be, what we could become in the eyes of others. You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. Greg McGowan said that from a book, Existentialism, or Existentialism, Essentialism. It's about what's essential. So it's a book on culture and leadership and business. The unimportance of practically everything. It's not about, it's about disqualification, like in chess. The grandmaster is disqualifying all the moves. There's this intuitive element that comes from the repetition, 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 playing, 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 studying, you know, studying, 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 and playing. What does it take to be focused? Here's another quote I like. Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. Soren Kierkegaard said that. Right? Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. So our life is going to express the result, the fruits of our life, what we work on, what we do with our time, how we occupy space and time, our results. It will express the dominant thoughts, what we think about, what we talk about, how we show up. To me, culture matters. So culture, 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 culture. Everything is culture, culture. Everywhere I look, everything I see is culture, culture, or cultural context. Culture. The rituals, the habits, the beliefs, the narratives, the behaviors that drive life. Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. So, what are you focused on and why? Where is your attention? We looked at the definition of focus in part one, attention and intention. I'll reread it. Focus is the sustained direction of attention, the sustained direction. So where we're aiming at. That brings up values, what we value. Sustained direction of attention, energy, and intention. It has my attention. It's unconscious. My unconscious value set is being represented where my attention is. Energy is all that energy that comes through our human being from uh, what the combination and accumulation of our genes and our environment and all the sustenance that we bring to the world, reality, energy, intention, that subjective expression, which is based on our goal, our individuality brushing up against others' individualities that make up reality, and intention towards a clearly defined aim. So, focus is the sustained direction of attention, energy, and intention toward a clearly defined aim without distraction or dilution. A clearly defined aim. So now we're talking about sustained direction. It's clear, it's defined. So that makes me think it's written. So there's been thought, it's spoken. To clear in the sense that others can even participate in it. So it's spoken, it's written because you're to think, you write. Writing is separating the wheat from the chaff. It's refining the aim. It's refining the clarity. Now there's an inclusion of others in the mix. It's clear enough that others can interpret it and bring energy to it, attention to it, to clear my attention, direction, and intention. Others will buy into my focus, just like this show, this episode on focus, part two, sustained without dilution or distraction. No one is hitting the mark if they look the wrong way at the wrong time. They're distracted. There's a dilution of attention from the management as it relates to the customer journey. Now the quality of value the customer gets for their value, their capital, is less than it otherwise would be. Focus matters because it's the fulcrum of culture. Fulcrum. The culture, because leadership is a key component to culture. So when the leadership breaks down, the attention of the leader is broken. It's diluted. There's distracted. It's disengaged, and therefore the attention of the of others on that aim is broken. Right? There's a misalignment of aim. There's a misalignment of vision. There's a misalignment. If there's a misalignment of vision, because vision and purpose influence sacrifice. Yeah. They influence the values. They influence the behaviors. They influence the behaviors which reflect what we value. And what we value is reflected in our behavior. Fulcrum, the point or support on which a lever pivots. More broadly, a thing that plays a central or essential role in an activity, event, or situation. Focus is the fulcrum of culture. Root, fulcire, to prop up or support. Folk, support, rum. The support, literally, the support of the culture is the focus. In physics, the fulcrum is the point on which a lever rests or pivots. Metaphorically, a person or thing that is the center of activity or importance. Quote, trust is the fulcrum of strong leadership. Well, think about this. Strong leadership. What is trust? Trust is, yes, it's a projection or like a idealized inference of what is possible based on perception. Well, that perception's rooted in something, right? Trust. Trust is a spiritual. It's future oriented. It's there's a risk involved in trust. There's a self-preservation given up. It's a forward movement. It's not a backward movement. It's a forward leaning in. There's a risk in trust. But that risk is necessary to create, to go on the offense is risky. The defense, there's vulnerabilities in offense. Yet those vulnerabilities lead to gains. It's how we combat paradox in life is we move into it. We don't move away from it. We move right into it. Trust is a necessary, trust is a necessary component to that embracing paradox and reconciling paradox, reconciling contradiction, navigating the unknown and creating, co-creating reality, co-creating the world. Education is the fulcrum of a prosperous society, end quote. Now I'm saying that focus is a fulcrum of culture. Culture, metaphorical ecosystem of shared belief created by an influencer, maintained by the alignment of the influenced. Story, language, symbolism, rituals, the hero, the hero's journey. Each individual on their own hero's journey, influenced by others at and below their awareness or understanding. Focus, man, this conversation has become so cerebral. Not, I don't know why, but well, maybe I think I do. Um, I'm in the process of molting and tapping into thy core focus. The purpose of the Culture Matters podcast has been to uncover the genius of our guest. This episode, we're nearing 1,000, and I'm finding my focus. I'm finding my aim. Part of interviewing hundreds of, well, thousands of times, but hundreds of people has been a component of me finding my aim. Read to think, write to develop, listen to hear what is unsaid, speak to let go. I'm finding my aim. I'm focusing the lens. I haven't taken my shot yet. I'm finding my focus. And you're on that journey with me. I think that to be the best damn advisor, consultant, leader, leader of leaders, follower of leaders, steward of culture, focus is a foundational element to success. The willingness to focus is a faith conversation because now, you are going to miss out. I am going to miss out. You're going to miss out on almost everything. But just like Greg McGowan said, almost everything is inconsequential, inconsequential and unimportant. You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything. End quote. Here's another quote. So there's faith in that, by the way. That's not the quote, but there's faith in focus because you're taking a leap into one specific reality. Like, all right, this is the path that is being carved from decision, cutting off of everything else. And there's a faith in that. There's there must be the face, the uncertainty and the fear, the danger. There's a faith. And from that, values are refined. What we value, because the behaviors, the actions, and the repetitions take place, and the content and time, the relationship between content or knowledge and hours invested in, right? Repetitions, it reflects experience. Uh, it brings out it taps into the innate talents that are within us within any given domain, but we can't even the greatest geniuses are not the best at everything. They may be better at an arbitrary, number, 10 things than many others, or 3 or 40, but not everything. Ultimately, there will be a limit to what any mortal can do at the highest level. Focus. So there's only so many hours and so much potential, and that has influence over that impacts the revealing of genetic possibility and talent, and even attracts or repels the others that help along the hero's journey, the guides, the mentors. And over time, that experience of putting in the work, as they say, leads to wisdom. Or quote, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Seneca said that. What are some civilizations that embodied focus? Ancient Sparta focused entirely on military excellence and discipline. If you think about how many reps they put in, how that influenced their governance, what they valued, how they fought. Like Kierkegaard said, right, about the results will be reflected by the dominant thoughts, how they spoke to one another, and the beliefs that they had, and the frameworks that they operated within as far as their training led to some pretty significant battles being won, but from much smaller forces to much larger forces, smaller being the Spartans. The Roman Republic as well, they laser focused on expansion, law, and infrastructure. The Ming Dynasty focused on order, self-reliance, and artistic refinement. The industrial Britons focused on national resources, on mechanization, empire, and commerce. Some significant historical figures that represented focused. Leonardo da Vinci, timeless works occurred as a consequence of his focus in between gulfs of scattered interests. So he was quite the polymath and known to be in and out of all sorts of things. But when he was really in a project and he was in the work, it he was it was him and he was it. Steve Jobs was known for obsessive focus. He used to say that deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. That's also a Michael Porter quote that we've talked about with Juan Pablo Gonzalez on the Culture Matters podcast. Strategy is knowing what not to do. Nelson Mandela, laser focused on justice and reconciliation. If you think about the sacrifice that he made with his life and behind bars, it must have taken immense focus to burden that the fruit of his sacrifice. Focus before, focus after. Marie Curie, lifelong focus on physics and chemistry. She broke ground as a woman in science. Single-mindedly, Alexander the Great was focused on glory and warfare from an early age. He was 12 or 13 when Aristotle, 40 years his senior, focused on mentoring him, teaching him. Aristotle, the mentee of Plato, which was the mentee of Socrates, and Alexander focused on training in his tweens and teens and studying and warfare and battles and taming uh, his horse. What's his name? Bucephalus. He was focused. His father said, Macedonia is not big enough for you. He was focused on conquering the world from a young age. When his father told him that, he was a tween or something like that. And by his early 30s, he had already conquered the known world, chased the Persians across the Ottoman Empire. Miyamoto Musashi was a samurai whose life revolved around disciplined focus. So I think that focus, the ability to focus, and the discernment between focus and its inverse, or like the gap between being in a moment of focus or an hour of focus, a season of focus, and the almost like after you let go of the bow, you've let go and you're going to get the other hour to put it back in the bow. You need a new aim, a new target. There's all this. There's a time lapse that, but you're gonna have. There's gonna be an unfocused period of time before you put the arrow in the bow again and have a new target and pull back. There's gonna be a time that lapses where it's unfocused because we haven't picked our new target yet. There's all these other elements and stimuli. We had to shorten the gap as much as possible without lessening the quality of the arrow choice, of the target choice, of the maybe even the bow broke. We need a new bow. But at least the ability to recognize the importance of focus, to call out unfocused behavior when it's not serving the culture, the business. Some examples in closing on what focus culture or focus CEOs and unfocused CEOs. Some unfocused CEOs, Adam Newman. It was we were charisma and ambition, but you think of these people like these ambitious creatives that had the ability to orate and speak. They had all these elements of creativity and oratory and gumption, yet could or weren't able to execute. The execution has a relationship with the focus, has a relationship with the team, has a relationship with actually, team camaraderie, cohesion, continuity, has a relationship with focus. Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos focused on image over scientific results. And the distinction between unfocused, well-intentioned failure and fraud and deception and illegal activity is nil. It's thin. Whether it's an individual becoming self-deceptive or it's an organization choking on its own exhaust, losing its sense of purpose, its clarity, its aim, and becoming corrupt and bureaucratic, people and organizations lose their focus naturally, or may even never fully gain clarity of what their focus is. Like I said, I've been finding my focus for 1,000 episodes. I'm beginning to see clearly the target Warren Buffett's investing career, I think, exemplifies focus. Staying within a certain core competency, being smart enough to know not to play games he couldn't win, and being all in on the games that he might have a chance to, and putting in the time, the decades and decades and decades, right? The 80 some odd years of investing. So, what happens when focus is lost in closing? People burn out, there's confusion, there's underachievement, there's lack of fulfillment, there's low self trust and low trust. In companies, wasted resources, poor morale, brand erosion, loss of competition or competitive edge. You lose your moat. In societies, they drift culturally. They become, fragmented identities fragment. The core cohesion becomes infighting and tribalism and increases stress, and it just starts to break everything down. Leadership voids, erosion of collective vision. Now the past becomes in question and the future is muddled. I believe that uh, recording 540 podcasts in 2024 represented, well, it took focus and it helped me refine and define. It forced my attention. It made me question my intentions. Everything that we do as a firm is surgical and personal and individualistic and content heavy and contextually rich. It takes a tremendous amount of focus to be the firm of choice, to be the high quality, to have a tenure of the average client of well over 4 years, 4.09 years. It takes tremendous amount of focus. And yeah, maybe you're listening to this and you think, I don't want to be the best. Well, then don't pursue focus. Don't get clear on your aim and don't put in the effort and the work. Don't prepare. Don't be curious. Don't have a sense of urgency. You prepare like a surgeon, listen like a poet, and deliver like a strategist. You want to, huh? Everyone, I haven't met too many people. I don't know. I can't think of someone that comes in mind that was unfocused and didn't accomplish something. Even if the thing they accomplished I didn't agree with. Context. Focus is the discipline commitment. All right. It forces clarity. It forces attention. It creates energy and it lasers it on a specific outcome. And the long-term effects of focus are felt throughout a society. The question that you have to ask yourself is, how focused are you? What are you focused on? What does your calendar say about what you value, who you value, where your focus lies? How congruent is your calendar and your actions and rituals? How congruent are they with the story that you're telling yourself and others? What do you actually value? And how are you showing up to be to put in the reps, gain the experience and the wisdom necessary to reap the fruits of the life that you want, say you want, think you want? Culture matters, focus, part two. If you're listening to this, go listen to those other podcasts stated in the beginning. Share this with a friend. We will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast.